What do you want, LeBron James? You have it all. The cars, the money, the NBA. What could I have that you don't have? This? It all makes sense now. Not even someone famous like yourself, LeBron James, could find Sprite Cranberry, because everyone was buying it in stores. You're trying to find Sprite Cranberry. That's what it is, alright? Well, guess what, LeBron? You're never getting the Sprite Cranberry. Finally. Wait, where'd he go? Dang it, not again. He left. Wait, why did he leave the Sprite Cranberry? This doesn't make any sense.
Skylanders has around 167 unique Skylanders, so with so many Skylanders on the roster, there has to be a couple that get forgotten. And that just sadly is how it is. And I know there's going to be that one dude in the comments is like, bro, what are you talking about? That's my favorite Skylander. This is basically a list of Skylanders that I think gets forgotten about by the Skylanders community. And just to get this out of the way, no, I will not be talking about Sunburn in this video. Yes, I know that he's a forgotten character by Activision, but he's talked about so much by the community that it brings up the argument that is he really even forgotten? Anyway, enough with all the intros, let's get right into this. So I'm going to be talking about SSA first. This game definitely has the least amount of forgotten Skylanders. I mean, it's the first game, and all these Skylanders are considered the OG 32. And really every single Skylander from this game is someone's favorite. Even Skylanders that are considered pretty bad like Drill Sergeant are still remembered. But I felt like I would just be a cheapsake if I said, oh, well, there's no forgotten Skylanders in SSA. So I had to choose one. And you might be surprised by this, but the character I picked from Sprout's Adventure isn't actually from the Forgotten 8. The Skylander I choose is none other than Sonic Boom. I bet this is one of you guys' favorite Skylanders, but I mean, look at all the other Skylanders that came out in this game. Gill Grunt, Sugar Happy, Prison Break, Eruptor, Spyro, the list goes on and on. And while Sonic Boom got a Series 2, I think that if you ask Skylanders fan to name a random Skylander from Sprout's Adventure, I think Sonic Boom would probably come up the least. She doesn't have any crazy designs or any crazy moves, so I do think I have to give the award of Most Forgotten Skylander in SSA to Sonic Boom. But moving forward, each game will most likely have 2 or more Skylanders that I think are forgotten. I simply can't give any more picks though for SSA, and I really only chose Sonic Boom for SSA because I felt like I had to choose at least one Skylander from each game. If not, I probably wouldn't have picked any Skylanders from SSA. But anyway, enough with Sprout's Adventure, let's get into Giants. I mean, there's an easy frontrunner for this, and that is Fright Rider. I mean, he's the only Giants core to get a repose never. So there is that, but I just never hear anyone from the community talk about this dude. Once again, I don't think his design is really crazy, despite him being a 2-figure character, and he also doesn't really have any memorable movesets at all. For the most part, I think his character is kind of mediocre. Not horrible, but not good. And those are the forgotten ones, because Skylanders like Sprocket are at least remembered for being super bad. Characters like Fright Rider that are just kind of mediocre are not going to get remembered. And on that logic, we also have a giant from this game that I think is forgotten, and that is Ningini. Yep, that's right. Look, I get it, Ningini is a giant, but does anyone really play with Ningini when you play Skylanders Giants? I would think not. The last time I played Ningini was back in 2020, when I was still doing locks on the channel, and I was considering doing a Giants lock. And it's not like I don't play Skylanders a lot, I actually play Skylanders a lot in my free time. Like, I'll just boot up a new save file every now and again and play some of the games. And these games are super replayable, but when it comes to Ningini, I never really play as her. I think I would also like to give an honorable mention to Swarm. I don't think he has forgotten as some of the other Skylanders we talked about, but I never really want to talk about Swarm. I don't hear anyone talk about him. But I don't know if he's super forgotten, so better be safe than sorry. So here he is. Alright, Swap Force. Now, there were a lot of Skylanders forgotten in Swap Force. Swap Force was when Gimmick Landers kind of became a trend, so more attention was focused on those special Skylanders. At this point, they still made core Skylanders, but only a select few of those core Skylanders got any attention from the devs when it came to commercials. But the Swappers were all over the commercials for Swap Force, so obviously, a lot of cores were forgotten here. First up, we got Doombug. I mean, come on, I bet a lot of you don't even have him, let alone use him when you play Skylanders. I think there are a couple proponents to his forgottenness. First of all, he was in Swap Force, the place where cores probably had it worse when it came to marketing. I think when it comes to being a core, I think the game where it was worst for you to be a core was Swap Force. Then there's the fact that he's a core, obviously. Then on top of that, he's in the Magic Element, which I kind of think is like the redheaded stepchild of the elements. Personally, I've always thought the magic element was kind of the forgotten element, despite having Spyro in it. Doombug also fits the trend where I don't think he's a bad Skylander, but I wouldn't say he's an amazing Skylander. Some of his attacks are useful, yes, but I would just choose to play so many other Skylanders over him, so yeah. Alright, let's talk about Riptide. First of all, look at this dude's underbite. Bro's got a bigger underbite than the giant from Clash Royale. That's crazy. But he's also a Forgotten Skylander. Again, being a corn swap force, that's always gonna hurt you. But like most Forgotten Skylanders, he doesn't really have any eye-catching design features on him. His moves are also pretty average. I honestly don't like Riptide that much, but I think I dislike him more than most people. I think that the majority of people would say that Riptide is average to subpar, but hey, at least he has the Jaw of Steel. Next up is Zulu. Now, I don't understand this one because at least I think his design is actually pretty cool, and his character pose is him holding up his giant green weapon. Personally, I think the pose is awesome. And for those that have watched my underrated Skylanders video, I really like Zulu. I can't argue with the fact that he's pretty forgotten. I mean, who talks about Zulu? I mean, probably Lou Studdard. He probably does. I knew he's a fan of Zulu, much like myself, but I haven't really heard anyone say, oh yeah, dude, it's all about Zulu, which I would agree with, but no one says that. The reason may be that the counterpart life core was Bumble Blast, which is like a really good Skylander that could be a proponent of this. And he could have just overshadowed Zulu. That could be it, but I hope that one day Zulu makes it out of the trenches and gets the recognition he deserves. We already talked about one water core from this game, so why don't we talk about the other, Punk Shot. This is another case of the core disease. Hopefully one day they'll find the cure. But personally, I think Punk Shot's design is actually pretty solid. It also doesn't help that she released mid-2014, near the end of the game's life cycle, which is something that I forgot to mention thus far. Usually Skylanders that get released after wave 3 or 4 tend to be the ones that get forgotten because the hype for the current game has died down and now people are waiting for the new game to be revealed. Obviously, us hardcore fans didn't forget about these Skylanders, but the general consumer, aka parents for the games, were probably less inclined to go out and buy Skylanders 4 to 5 months after release of the games. Scratch is the next Skylander that we will discuss about, and real quick flex, I was able to find Scratch for $7 when she usually goes for $30, so I'm a bit of an epic gamer. Scratch was released pretty late in the year during Wave 4, so that is probably the culprit to her forgottenness. Now, just because you're released in the last wave doesn't mean you're going to be forgotten, though. In fact, I think the worst wave to be released in is in the second to last wave, the wave that Scratch was released in. Because the last wave is going to get hyped up from Activision because, you know, it's the final wave. Well, who cares about being the second to last wave? It's kind of like how you'd probably rather play a game that is so bad that it's good then play a game that is just super mediocre. While the mediocre game is technically the better game, the game that is so bad that it's good is kind of good because you can mess around with bugs in the game. Or like in the NFL draft, it's probably better to be Mr. Irrelevant than to be the second to last pick in the NFL draft. Because the last pick actually has a name for it while you're just the second to last guy to get drafted. I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but you get the point. But a Skylander that wasn't released in the fourth wave was Starstrike. She was actually a wave 2 Skylander, but like Nagini and Doombug, she's part of the magic element. I think her design is actually kind of a clean design, but other cores going around like Grim Creeper, Roller Brawl, and Scorp also coming out in wave 2, she probably just wasn't as sought out after. Moving on to the next game, Trap Team. What happened to cores in Swap Force also happened to cores in this game. However, I do think cores were marketed a bit more during this game, even though they are made useless by the game devs because you cannot open elemental gates in this game with cores. Which means, yep, there is 0 point to buying cores in Trap Team. They are 100% useless. But your boy collected cores in Trap Team anyway because he's a G. I think a pretty forgotten Skylander that I don't even have is Bad Spin. How are you one of 3 Skylanders to get named by fans and you still get forgotten about? Probably because you're a core, honestly. Also, for some odd reason, Batspin was initially released in a 3-pack and a single pack, but only in Europe. Why? Just why? Also, this was during Wave 3. She was available in US, which probably has more Skylanders fans in it, in Wave 4. And guess what? Wave 4 was the second to last wave of Trap Team. However, it's not always better to be released on like a Wave 1, as you see with Torch. In fact, she was released in a triple pack and a single pack in Wave 1. But there's always that Wave 1 Skylander that never gets bought, and whenever you go to buy new Skylanders, you just see a stockpile of that one Skylander. That's Torch. With Wave 1 coming out with Skylanders like Kripkeen, Jawbreaker, Walla, Wildfire, and Gusto, who are all Trap Masters I might add, she never really stood a chance. Actually, only 5 cores were sold in Wave 1 of Trap Team, 2 of them being reposes. And the 2 other original cores were Funny Bone and Chopper. Yep. Honestly, it was just the wrong place and the wrong time for Torch to be released. And her fire counterpart Trailblazer did not do that much better, as he is also not remembered that much, which I honestly don't get. I mean, he's a horse Skylander, that has never been seen before. He was released out during Wave 3, so not a bad time, but not a perfect time either. Even though I said the reason Torch was probably not remembered is because that she was released in Wave 1, but I still think that Wave 1 is probably the best wave to be released in. More people probably buy Skylanders on day 1 than any other day, so your chances to get picked are simply higher. 2 other Skylanders that have the curse of being a Wave 4 Skylander are Echo and Rocky Roll. Echo, I understand, not a crazy design or moveset, but Rocky Roll, he's a rock person that rides a big rock. Rocky Roll, I thought would be down with the kids, but apparently he's not, because I've never seen anyone talk about him. But I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about at least one Trap Master. I believe the most forgotten Trap Master is Tough Luck. Dang, I guess you could say Tough Luck. Tough Luck. I'm sorry, I'll see myself out for that one. Yeah, I'll go. I mean, she's actually kind of, like, fine. She's not a bad Skylander, just meh. But I think we have talked about Trap Team enough. Let's move on to Superchargers. Superchargers has the least amount of Skylanders to come out during the game's lifespan, with only 18 Skylanders showing up. This isn't counting vehicles though, because you can't count vehicles as Skylanders, fight me on that. But with only 18 Skylanders, it probably gives the Skylanders coming out a better chance to be remembered. And that worked, as I don't think there are that many forgotten Skylanders in Superchargers, but there are some. And the first one is Smash Hit. I mean, he is a marsupial with a giant boulder, so you'd think he'd be a major hit with the kids of 2015, but I guess not. One wave later in Wave 3, we got Splat. What a creative name. I think this is the case that Splat simply just didn't look cool enough to buy. Also, during our wave, the only other Skylanders that were brought out were Repost Skylanders that came out, and those Repost Skylanders were Lava Lance Eruptor, Hurricane Jetvac, and Big Bubble Pop Fizz, so yeah, I don't think Splat, once again, never really stood a chance. Now, even though I don't think Thrillipede's a forgotten Skylander, I just think it's funny that Thrilipede and his vehicle, the Buzzwing, got a wave all to themselves. That's right, there was a 5th wave of Superchargers just featuring them. But yeah, I don't see the point of that. The last Skylander that I think is forgotten from Superchargers is Nightfall. In case you didn't know, Nightfall had a major chip malfunction going on, and all of her shipments got recalled. So if you actually got a Nightfall, you probably got a version of her that didn't work. But you could send it back to Activision and get a recompensation for it. So when Nightfall was later released, she just wasn't bought that much, obviously. Alright, the next game and the last game is Imaginators, and this had way many more Skylanders than Superchargers. This game had 31 new Skylanders, so there is also a higher chance that some of these Skylanders are getting forgotten. First up is Barbella. I mean, she's one of the most bland and boring character designs I've ever seen, in my opinion. Not good at all. Not really shocked that she gets overlooked despite being in Wave 1. Also, for some reason there is a Wave 2. That's normal, but the Wave 2 was released on launch, so why even call it Wave 2? Whatever. In Wave 2 we see Aurora, or maybe you don't see Aurora because of how forgotten she is, which doesn't even make sense since she's the niece of Eon. You know, the main protagonist in the games other than the Skylanders. I mean, I guess they could have made her design a bit better. I think much like Barbella, really bland design, boring. I still picked her up, but I could see why you wouldn't. And the final Skylander we'll be talking about in this video is Mr. Cat. He actually released twice on day 1. Once in a single pack and once in a double pack with a Magic Creation Crystal. Even with all that, I bet you rarely hear Mr. Cat. And if you have Mr. Cat, you probably don't play as him that much. But as you can see, guys, there are actually a lot of forgotten Skylanders, and hopefully this video can shine some light on some of these underrated gems. Alright. Here, come with me. We're going on a road trip.
It's the thirstiest time of the year. I have just one query.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
The answer is clear.